Good morning. My name is Reverend Kylie Renner, and on behalf of the entire One Spiritual Center community, I want to welcome you here today on this unusual Sunday morning here in Albuquerque. It is so unusual for us to have a cloudy day, and we're in that time where a storm is blowing in if you're not around here and watching online, and so we can feel the seasons changing. I think we're having one day of fall, and tomorrow is winter. And then we'll see what happens after that. We'll probably be back to spring quite soon. So we're in this kind of time of change, and you can feel it in the air. And so yesterday, to prepare for this, Zephyr and I spent time in the garden in the back, clearing everything we knew was going to freeze over the next 2 days and trying to harvest everything we could possibly get. And I have to tell you, that's really hard for me to pull up plants full of flowers and fruit. I have a really hard time even thinning my carrots to make sure that they're going to have room to grow big enough. In fact, I don't. And so I always have really, really small carrots. Although I had some success this year, I think it was just the soil was amenable. So there's this sense in which it's really hard to give up all of that. That has been, all of that promise, all of the things that aren't yet ripe. But there's also this sense in which, in some way, we have to just be open to it being the time for that. That is what the time is right now. And so I'm just in this space of recognizing the change that is happening, obviously all around us, but also inside of us. And all of the things we were being asked to be okay with, not ripening yet, but the season for it being done. And how do we live in that and in this time of change together? And so these are some of the questions I've been battling with this week, including the question like what the hell else can we do at this point? And so I'm going to give you some of my thoughts about that in a bit. But as we just settle into this time of change today and just feeling it, like everyone's dressed for winter all of a sudden. Last week we were in shorts still, Dottie, I'm in a dress. I am, and I'm not cold. It's okay. It's 64 degrees out here. It's really okay. There's just a sense in which we are moving somehow with the tilt of the earth and this change of the season. There's something in us moving too. And so we're just going to pay attention to that together this morning for a bit as we open into prayer. So if you're comfortable closing your eyes, I just invite you to breathe in what the air feels like and smells like and is moving like right now. And we breathe in the sound of the wind and the trees and the leaves blowing. As we notice what it feels like to be alive today. And as we recognize that the trees are showing us how beautiful it can be to let go. And so I just recognize that we're right where we're supposed to be. In this time, in this place, we're exactly where we need to be to give and receive whatever it is that we need for our own transformation, but also to help us to support the transformation that is happening on this planet right now. And so I just know that we're guided and loved and supported today. And that we can open ourselves to deep peace and deep love. And so we let go into that. And we let it be. And so it is. So during rehearsal this morning, the beautiful piece that John wrote this week that usually would fit in our meditation place turned out didn't want to be played quietly. And so we've switched a little things around. So the meditation this morning is an old jazz standard, and you'll hear his new song after that. But I just warning you, because you're going to be like, wait, doesn't sound like John. So I chose a poem this morning with kind of a dark title. It's entitled Citizen of Dark Times. And Sid looked over my shoulder and said, ooh. But this is a poem that a contemporary poet named Kim Stanford out of Oregon wrote after the 2016 election. And I was reading an interview he gave about the poem and about the genesis of the poem. And he said he was trying to find a flavor of unity in really divisive times. And I don't know if he could have predicted it was going to get worse. So this is a poem that speaks of not just the darkness, but of the hope as well. So here we go. Citizen of Dark Times. Agenda in a time of fear. Be not afraid. When things go wrong, do right. Set out by the half-light of the seeker. For the well-lit problem begins to heal. For the well-lit problem begins to heal. Learn tropism toward the difficult. We have not arrived to explain, but to sing. We have not arrived to explain, but to sing. Young idealism ripens into an ethical life. Prune back regret to let faith grow. When you hit rock bottom, dig further down. Grief is the seed of singing. Shame the seed of song. Keep seeing what you are not saying. Plunder your reticence. Songbird guards a twig. Its only weapon, a song. And so we just take this sense in which we are being asked to not just not be afraid, but then to turn all of that which we're feeling into song, and we're going to allow the meditation to move us today.
John a chance to grab his tiny little guitar. And this is a tune that he wrote. Did you write this last night, John?
Pretty much.
Pretty much last night. It's called Reformation.
Actually, this goes along nicely with that poem. I was thinking of rebirth and the new Reformation. Two for nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That was beautiful, John. Thank you so much for that. So yesterday we had our monthly trip as a group to Roadrunner Food Bank. And after having done that project and been there for all these years, one of the employees yesterday asked me, took me aside and said, so what are you going to talk about tomorrow? So it was great because I didn't really even know he knew that I was a preacher. I knew he knew we were a group and that we were a church. and that he liked having us around, but I didn't really know he knew anything else than that. So Cleveland asked me, so what are you gonna preach about tomorrow? And I said, well, I don't know. I feel like what I want to preach about is, what do you do when you've done everything you can do? And he looked at me and he says, I think we need to hear that right now. And so I'm in this space in which I think a lot of us are, where it feels like we've done everything we can do. Most of us, I think, have already voted or have a plan about voting. We've been wearing masks. We've been socially distancing. We've been doing our part to make sure that we're hopefully helping keep ourselves and everyone else as safe as possible. Our numbers here in New Mexico are going up in such a scary and overwhelming way. And so we sit here going, what else can we do, right? What else can we do? Because we get to the point where on some level there isn't anything else we can do. And so I want to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that and its relationship, actually, it feels like, to this time in the season. So the first thing I thought about when I was thinking about this is, like, we've put our oxygen masks on, right? Like, we've done what we need to do to make sure that we've done our part. And after that, our hands are free and we're breathing. So there feels like there's this energy of, like, how can we support others? And so we've probably done that as well. We've reached out to those who are most vulnerable around us to make sure that they have what they need, that they have help voting, they have help doing the things that they need. And then at some point, we get to this place where it's like, well, we've done that. And we've done all the things that we think we know how to do. How do we be with that sense in which now on some level we have to hand it over to something bigger? Like, there isn't anything more to do on some physical level, that we've done all of those things, that there's something else that gets to take over. And I have to say that I found myself kind of laughing about thinking about patience right now in this time of harvest, because it feels like that's not what harvest is about. It's not about patience. It's not about, oh, I've been waiting since the spring for these things to come to fruition, right? Or these plants to be mature. We're not waiting for that. But instead, I realized that it's actually a bigger kind of patience. It's not this patience of having just planted the seeds and waiting for the plant to grow. Right now is the patience that requires us to recognize that we have a whole season plus before we can even plant any more seeds, before we can start that other process. And so there's this sense in which this time is actually a time of deeper patience, of deeper recognition that there's something going on beneath the surface that we might not see the effects of right away, but that we have to be able to find in ourselves and able to do it over and over and over again. So I think that that's one of the interesting things about my relationship to the things that I think need to happen. And I think about it in terms of social justice and change around me. And I have this idea that it happens once. Like it just, a law is written and it changes and it's done. And that's simply not how it works. And so I came across this story about an 85-year-old man who was sitting on the sofa with his 50-year-old son. And suddenly this crow perched on their window, and the father asked his son, "What is this?" And the son said, "Well, Dad, it's a crow. You know what that is." And a few minutes later, the crow was still there, and the father asked his son the second time, "What is this?" And the son said, "Well, I just told you, Dad. Don't you remember? It's a crow." And after a while, the father again asked the son the third time, "What is this?" And then by then, the son was getting impatient, and he said, "It's a crow. I told you, a crow, a crow." And after a while yet, the son asked a fourth time, "What is this?" And so at this point, the son got angry and said, "Dad, like, why do you keep asking me the same question again and again? I told you so many times. It's a crow. Are you even listening to me?" And so a little later, the father went into his room and came back with his old diary. And he had been keeping this diary since his son was born. And he opened to a page and asked his son to read it. And here were the words. "Today, my 3-year-old son was sitting with me on the sofa, and a crow was sitting on the window. And he asked me 23 times what it was. And I replied all 23 times that it was a crow. It made me smile so much, and I hugged him each time he asked me that same question again and again for 23 times, smiled and told him again. It was a beautiful moment to share." So this story is hard, right? It's hard because of so much of how we think that change happens is that we ask the question once and it is answered and we get to move on. And what this story is about is the story about how change really happens, which is that the question gets asked over and over and over again, probably way more than 23 times. And we could get angry that the question keeps on getting asked. Or we could realize that there's something deeper going on and be like that dad with his 3-year-old, right? Realizing that by being willing to answer the question over and over again, we are ushering in something new. We are ushering in this sense in which we're available in a deeper way to what is really going on. And so it's hard because I recognize that I have that impatience in me, right? I want the change to happen immediately. I want to ask the question once and be done with it. I want to feel like I did what I needed to do and that's it. But that's not how this change works, this real change inside of us. And so there's this another story about a New England preacher who was really famous. And he was really poised and quiet, and he was known for that throughout the area. And so one day a friend caught him in the middle of pacing like a caged lion, and in that, in that space of not being all this poised and quiet man everyone thought he was. And so his friend asked him, "Well, what's the trouble?" His name was Philip Brooks. "So what's the trouble, Mr. Brooks?" And he said, "Well, the trouble is that I'm in a hurry, but God isn't." And I think that there's a sense in which opening to our idea of how that change happens and the timing it does, it causes us a lot of suffering. It causes us a lot of suffering that it doesn't look or have the time frame that we think it should, and so that's why the seasons changing are so important to me. And so a lot of you know I was born and raised on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that isn't really known for seasons. We have high surf, low surf. Or we have kind of more rainy, a little less rainy, depending on what side of the island you live in. We don't have this whole leaves changing, dropping, all of that. And so as an adult, it's been really interesting to realize how that cyclical nature and actually the power of recognizing our connection to that actually is such a great metaphor for how transformation happens. Because I have to tell you, it was like I wanted to cry yesterday as I was pulling up these tomato plants, right, that had all of these blooms on them still, all of this fruit that was never going to ripen. And I realize on some level that I want everything to ripen. I want everything in my life to come to some sort of beautiful conclusion where that which was planted then all of a sudden, does what it's supposed to do and gets all the way to the end, and I get to participate in it, and I get to enjoy it. And I want every single thing in my life to look like that. And that's just not how things work. right? That's not how and the seasons can teach us that, because not all of the fruit will ripen in time for the first frost. Not all of the things in our life that we want to be done, want to look a certain way, will look a certain way at the time we think they should. It's just not the way it works. And so I think that there's some great lesson in realizing that when we get to that place where there's like, what else can we do? There has to be some level in which we realize that there's a bigger story going on, and that there is something deeper moving, and we have to lean into trust in that. So yesterday when Cleveland asked me what I was going to preach about, and I told him, what do you do when there's nothing else you can do? He said, what I do is I pray. And I said, yeah, I pray too, and I'm learning that I need to be praying for in a different way at that place. And so I started to think about what I was saying, because I'm pretty sure I wasn't making a whole lot of sense to someone who didn't ever have me talk to them in that way or about these kind of things. And I realized in my head what I was talking about was like a lot of prayer we feel is like, I think I know what I want to happen. And my prayer is for that to happen. Like, I want this to be, I want this result, and this is what I'm going to pray for. And I realized that the prayer that is at the point of what else can I do, like I've done everything I can do, is in fact a different kind of prayer, which is a prayer that says, I'm gonna move myself out of my idea about what I think needs to happen here, because that's not helping anymore. All it's doing is causing me anger and frustration. All it's causing is me to experience anxiety. And so what I need to do is I need that prayer to move me from a place that says that I think I'm the one that is in control of this, and instead move it to a place where I realize that there's deeper things moving, that the divine has a timing and a grace and a beauty that is operating, and that I want to be available to participate in that instead of just resisting it. So there's this sense in which what I also recognize is really important when we get to that place of what else can we do, and feeling like kind of powerless, is to acknowledge what we're feeling. And I think that this is an interesting thing, because I think we want to pass off what we're feeling and get to some point of resolution in some place in which we don't have to acknowledge what we're really feeling, which might be, I feel like I swing between anger and outrage and frustration and sadness and grief and burnout. I've been struggling with the fact that it is a symptom of a very, very profoundly sick society, that we can't figure out how to take care of our most vulnerable. And we continue to decide to hold rallies. Oh my God, guys, anti-mask rallies while I just don't get it. Like, I don't understand. But I have to acknowledge that. I have to acknowledge how much that hurts. Because it's from that place, like that poem says, like that our grief is what turns into song, right? Like we have to be willing to let ourselves feel that and not gloss over it, because if we do gloss over it, then we just continue perpetuating all of the ways in which we have allowed the systems to keep on operating the way that they have. And so in the Buddhist tradition, they explain that there's 4 ways for spiritual life to unfold. And the one is that it's quickly and with a lot of pleasure. It's like this opening that happens, and then you're done with it. I don't know many people who've had that path to transformation, but I'm sure they're out there. Then there's a second one that is quickly but painfully. And they call this path the flaming gate. And I know a lot of people who've had that particular or have had a series of those in their own transformation. And then the third form is a spiritual process that is gradual and accompanied with a lot of pleasurable experiences. But they say that the most common path, which it feels like most of us are on, is slow and gradual, that contains both pleasure and suffering. And there's some level in which it feels as if accepting this and recognizing that all of these feelings that we feel are part of this transformation that is happening on some level and some timing that we don't quite understand yet, can help those moments where we feel like we've done everything we can do, and then what? So Gary Zukov says it this way: fruit drops from the tree when it is ready. Staying too long or moving too early misses the mark. The mark is the appropriateness that causes the fruit to fall when it's ready. The process has its own timing, and it creates changes in your life when those changes need to happen. And I believe that there's a mystery that operates that we don't often give enough credit to. And that's what happens when we move out of this sense in which my prayer is trying to direct something specific to happen, and I recognize that there's a mystery operating that is bigger than me, and I'm willing to hand this over. I'm willing to hand it over to a bigger idea than I could have held for this transformation, and to see what happens. Because if I don't do that, what I recognize starts to happen to me when I get to that point where there's nothing I feel like I can do any longer, is that I start to burn the wrong thing. And so the analogy that comes to mind is of an oil lamp. And when an oil lamp has oil in it and is lit, the oil is burning. But if it runs out of oil, then the wick starts to burn. And as long as there is oil, it's fine. The wick, it won't burn. And when I think about the things that I am opening to in my own life, and that sometimes that frustration that comes, or that anger, I have to make sure that I'm burning the right thing. And what I mean by that is, am I burning the thing that can be depleted, or am I burning the thing that can be refilled? And I feels like this is an important distinction as we enter into this time where I'm sensing that it's not going to get easier to get through to this next place. There's a lot of healing that has to happen. There's a lot of movement that's going to have to happen here, even just to get people safe here in New Mexico. And so there's this sense in which making sure that my anger and my grief isn't burning, isn't being sourced by the wrong thing. And making sure that I'm refilling and making sure that my oxygen mask is on properly, so that I can keep on asking the question over and over and over again, no matter how many times it takes. And so I'm not getting frustrated and yelling at the question. I'm instead open to the question, opening me further into the fact that there's a lot of different ways to see a crow, like you're seeing it for the first time. And so I don't know about you, but I recognize that there's just a lot that we're being asked to, as human beings, experience right now, and everyone's adapting and changing. And it is not always beautiful, and it is not always graceful, but I can feel it happening. just like I can feel the weather changing today. And it is from that place where I have to recognize that I have to let go of my idea of the timing it's going to happen in, and the what it's going to look like. And I have to trust that there's something deeper going on, that there's an opening then to recognize that there is more to do. But it doesn't look like the things I could check off a to-do list. Doesn't look like that anymore. It looks like the place of prayer inside of me that goes deeper, that has me asking deeper questions. And I think that's where we are right now. And so I'm going to ask you to join me in just, well, first making sure you've done everything you can do. And if you need help with that, please let me know. We're actually, everything's been so up in the air, but we have an opportunity possibly to have even someone to come here to give flu shots, which is awesome. Just as another of like the things we need to do this year, and making sure that we're doing that. And I'll let you know a little bit more. I haven't been hesitant to schedule with Kelly because it feels like every week we could be not doing this anymore. So didn't want to set that in motion yet. But just things like that. Like first do all those things. And then when you get to that place where you've done everything you can do, please join me in that prayer that says there's something deeper happening here. And I'm willing to see it. I'm willing to be it. I'm willing to be guided from that place. It's just so we make sure that we're burning the right thing, right? That we're burning and using that space inside of us that's connected to the infinite, and we're not diminishing our other kinds of energies right now. So thank you for joining me in that. We're going to ask the band to come up, and we're going to sing into our prayer. So I'm going to invite you to maybe think about some sense in which you're feeling that there's nothing else you can do. And it really doesn't matter to me if it's about the outside world or the inside world, or it's about a family member, or if it's about your job, or if it's about there is absolutely nothing else you can do. And we're just going to see if handing it over helps us to find some deeper peace today. So please join me as we sing.
Lifts us high, it heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. A prayer of love lifts us high, it heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. A prayer of love lifts us high, it heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. A prayer of love lifts us high, it heals us, sustains us, and sets us free.
And so our prayer today is a prayer of recognizing the love that is in and through and as all things. That love that is big enough to contain all of the multitudes. That love that is big enough to contain our grief and our outrage, as well as our joy and our connection. And I just recognize that love is guiding us in this time of change and transformation. I know that it knows exactly how to let go. I know it knows exactly how to guide and direct us. I know it knows exactly how to support the growth that is happening beneath the surface of things. And I just know that as we continue to be loved and supported in all of our questions. I know that we continue to be willing to ask the questions in deeper ways, in ways that return us over and over to what we are really here to do and what this whole thing really is about. And so I trust in Spirit in some way that is deeper than ever before, right here in this moment. I know that in this moment, exactly that which is ready, and that which isn't. And I let that be. And I just welcome a deep and abiding peace, knowing that there's just so much that I can do, and then I have to let it go. And what I let it go to is a wisdom that is bigger, a peace that is more encompassing, a love that knows exactly how. And so it is in trusting this that I open to whatever it is that gets to show up when I let that transformation happen through me in a bigger way. So I just let it be. And so it is.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free.
So now's the time that we offer whatever it is that we have to offer to this community, and we have some baskets hanging in the trees if you would like to do it that way. Also, online we have a spot on our website, onespiritualcenter.org, and we'd love and appreciate your continued support, especially as this weather changes and we're figuring out. Thank you for being brave today, too. Hopefully, I have a sense that by next Sunday it'll be warm again, so I think we'll be okay. It's supposed to bounce back, but if you did not already know, please, take care of your pets and animals and things over the next and plants over the next few days, because it's going to change quite rapidly, very quickly. I also want to thank everyone who showed up yesterday at Roadrunner Food Bank, our small but mighty group. We sorted 3,750 pounds of bread yesterday, and all of that will then be distributed. I was impressed by how much we got done, and in fact, the crew over there was impressed because somehow we make it look easy, and so it was fun, and we had a lot of fun. So another result of the Roadrunner Food Bank yesterday and our volunteering there was that they got donated these carnations that are over here, and so they're up for grabs. If anyone would like to take some flowers, please make them go away. Also, bagels are over there as well. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being who you are. Let us stand and sing. One last blessing to sing to one another today. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh
Thank you.